Hey everyone, I'm Selena Hill, and this is Be Heard Talk, a show that adds a taste of trap music, AOC, and spice to the issues affecting our generation. I have a great show lined up today. I'll be talking about Black capitalism and the debate over the path to Black power through economic empowerment with Queens' very own Natasha Williams. I also have a lot to say about 10 things that just don't make any sense. And then lastly, my longtime friend and colleague for the last 10 years, Stanley Fritz, will help you get to know me better during the Get to Know Selena Hill segment, where he'll likely troll me for your entertainment pleasure. So get ready, we got a great show. Black Americans have long been fighting for freedom since our ancestors were brought to this country. And yet, centuries after the Emancipation Proclamation, we have yet to achieve equality. Across the country, historic and ongoing displacement, exclusion, and segregation continue to prevent people of color from obtaining and retaining their own homes and accessing safe, affordable housing. Meanwhile, Black communities are disproportionately surveilled and criminalized, while progress in closing the Black and white academic achievement gap has been minimal since Brown versus the Board of Ed in 1954. Many Black Americans feel the solution to systemic racism is financial freedom from white institutions and establishments. A range of Black leaders, activists, and rappers have called for African Americans to focus on building and circulating capital in our own communities. Financial independence, they say, gives Black people the opportunity to run our own businesses, build our own schools and institutions, and govern our communities. That includes the likes of W.E.B. Du Bois, who proposed, and I quote, economic emancipation through voluntary, determined, cooperative effort. And Malcolm X, who encouraged Black folks to build and scale businesses like General Motors and Woolworths. However, other leaders like Black Panther Party leader Bobby Seale denounced the idea of Black capitalism, arguing that the only remedy to exploitative capitalism is basic socialism. So today, I asked my friend Natasha Williams to join me to discuss the debate over the path to Black power through economic empowerment. And now, for those of you who don't know, Natasha Williams is a community leader. She's a social justice advocate and political organizer who is committed to affecting real change in her community of Southeast Queens. Thank you so much for joining me, Natasha.
No problem. Thank you always for including me on these great conversations about Black folk.
Yeah. And I knew you were the person to go to. You know, in your campaign for city council, you're calling for more opportunities to create economic wealth and just empowerment within the community. Can you talk about why that's so important?
It's so important because we need to be able to sustain ourselves in our communities. When we think about the way in which the American system has been cultivated, right? It is driven by economics. And so when you think about the opportunities that we have as a community and our ability to leverage those opportunities, we know we need to build more resources and capacity, right? It's no surprise why we have MWBEs, Minority Women Business Enterprises. That's because minorities, particularly Black people, have been cut out of economic opportunities. And so it's very important that we also get our fair share. I keep thinking about, and it's been crazy on social media this year, the Tulsa massacre, right?
Yep.
And everybody talks about that was like the Black Wall Street of the South. And if we look at different Black enclaves historically, they have always been disrupted in some way, right? It's I can almost compare this to like voting, right? Like people would not go to lengths to oppress and suppress the vote if it wasn't important. So when I think about economics, especially in America as it pertains to Black people, people would not go to lengths to disrupt and diminish economic opportunities for Black people if it wasn't important. And that's how I look at it. Like, this is obviously important, and there's obviously a disparity, and how can we improve and close that disparity?
Natasha, so our communities are plagued by mass incarceration, unemployment, redlining, all of these different systemic issues. Do you think economic empowerment is a solution to these type of issues?
I think it's one solution, right? We always have to look at these things comprehensively, not a one-size-fits-all model, but I think that is for sure one of the most important solutions. When I think about all of these negative statistics that have come out, over 160% increase in gun crime, right? When I just think about this idea of crime, I also think about lost opportunities. I think about other oppressive ways that certain communities have been marginalized, and so they don't have any other options but to resort to robbing, stealing, right? If a person has not learned how to read, or they weren't properly educated, then perhaps they're not able to get a job, right? We have record unemployment, or maybe they don't have the skill set to be an entrepreneur. And so how are they going to sustain themselves? What options are left for them? And so I do think when we address some of these inequities, whether it's education, whether it's economics, which unfortunately in our country is tied to economic opportunities, we can solve for some of these other issues that we have. But the system was designed that way. And that's what I like to remind people. Like, there is a reason why, right, there is racial discrimination in the workplace. And so the system has been designed to marginalize and oppress certain groups of people in every type of aspect of life, and economics being the most important one. And this is one of the things, last thing I'll say about this, I also think about generational wealth, right? And what that means. I mean, there's so many studies that have come out about this particular issue. A white family is able to sustain themselves over generations, where Black communities, as a younger person, I'm supporting my family, right? And so different communities, different families, different groups of people have certain opportunities that others don't, that continue to keep them in a perpetual cycle of beneath and not above, or even on the same level.
And Natasha, I like when you brought up Tulsa, because if we think about that affluent community in Oklahoma, they had businesses, they had hospitals, they had newspapers and hotels. Imagine what those institutions would be worth today. Something that maybe took $10,000, $20,000 to build up would possibly worth $1 million. So, when we talk about generational wealth and the obstacles that were put in place, there were so many of them that have been holding us back, which is why, like you said, Black millennials are supporting our parents and our grandparents. That's where our disposable income is going. It's the other way around with white families, because they have generational wealth, so they don't have to depend on Gen Z to help them pay the bills. So for you, do you believe that economic empowerment for the Black community specifically is on the pathway to Black liberation?
Definitely on the pathway to Black liberation, because this is what our country is built on, right? Maybe if we live in a different country, maybe if our country was built on other ideologies, then maybe that isn't a pathway. But we just always have to be real. And I know earlier before the show started, you kind of mentioned that I live in these different worlds. And one thing that I always tell my activist friends, it's like my running analogy is, they want to just burn the whole system down, which is great. The system sucks and we need a new system. But I mean, how can you burn something down that's so steeped and baked without actually assessing, right? When you think about a demolition, they actually have to go assess the building. They have to think about what they're going to replace with the building. Maybe they'll burn the building down. Maybe they'll like hammer something. Like you actually have to think about these things. And I just use that analogy with everything because unfortunately, this is the system that, now hopefully we can change the system, but this is the system that we operate in this country. And in order for us to have liberation, we kind of have to acknowledge the system in which we are living in. Hopefully it can change, but right now, like this is how we live here in America.
I'm so glad that you brought up what's talked about in the activism circles, because love my community organizer friends and activists. Yes, and I love the fact that they're calling them burn the system down. But the reality is capitalism is not going anywhere anytime soon. So what policies need to be put into place so that Black Americans, Black New Yorkers, and those within your district can tap in and basically empower themselves within this system?
I just really look at this comprehensively. It's kind of how I look at everything, right? We can't just think of one way. We have to really be individualized in our approach. It's about building capacity and minimizing or eliminating completely barriers and challenges that prohibit our communities from being successful economically. And there's tons of challenges and barriers that systematically, disproportionately affect Black and brown communities. When you think about jobs, you think about over incarceration. Now you're trying to get your life together, but now you're punished because you have a criminal background, right? Like we can literally go down the list of things and say, okay, I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm trying to sustain myself, but now I'm oppressed because a system has all of these barriers that don't allow me to actually achieve what I want to achieve here in this country, in this city, right here locally in Southeast Queens. And how do we ensure that more people have the same opportunities? And how do we ensure that people that have amassed a lot of power, a lot of wealth, are generous with that power and with that wealth for those who do not have the same opportunities? And I always try to like strike that balance, because I don't think that capitalism is the answer, but I don't think that full court press socialism may be the answer, because when you think about socialist societies historically, they've all ended up almost in dictatorships, right? Because like they did not apply what the true ideals of socialism exist and are built off of. We need to find a balance. And I'm not exactly sure how we find that balance. I ask myself this question all the time. How do we find that balance? How do we all sort of be cognizant of our privilege? And in that cognizant of the privilege, make sure that we are not doing harm to other people. And I just don't think as a country we think about it that way. Again, our country is also very individualistic. And so we like to think about ourselves and not really the collective, which is more of a socialist perspective, right? Capitalism is about me and what I have going on. And socialism is like, well, what about the collective? And how can I make sure I'm good, but how can I also make sure my neighbor is good? And that's what I try to think about.
So for those of us who are privileged, and most of us are privileged in some way, but who are, I guess, aware of it, what should we be doing to apply that privilege to really help those, working class communities, underprivileged communities, schools, whatever? Like what should we be doing?
Ooh, that is such a deep question. And I guess I can answer that from my perspective and, what I've done. And I feel like there's more to be done. But speaking about that, how can I use my privilege to help others who don't have the same privilege? How can I use my voice? How can I use my network, my resources to make the whole complete? And so that's what I would encourage. I mean, getting involved, right? I'm also gonna always encourage civic engagement, whether it's joining your community board, knowing exactly who is your elected leader, having a relationship with them, running for office yourself, whatever you wanna do, just going out to vote, whatever it looks like. There's power in that and there's leverage in that, and being active in those type of activities allow you to be a better advocate for others.
This is why we need leaders like Natasha Williams in City Council, because not only are you have a young, fresh perspective, but you're all about the community and the nuances within us. And some of us may be on this extreme and others may be here, but we need to definitely come together collectively to empower our people. And, speaking of that empowerment, I personally feel capitalism is not the answer, but like I said before, it's here now. Ultimately, what should we be fighting towards for generations, our children's children, so that they don't have to operate in a system that is really detrimental and harmful?
Yeah, I always love all of your thought-provoking questions. I really, and this is coming from my PhD brain, because it's like, okay, what is the data show? Like, what is the model? And so one of the things, and I know there's lots of research happening around like universal basic incomes, right? That is the most immediate way to share wealth. And it showed that people are not going to splurge on a bag or shoes. Like, people are actually buying food, paying utility bills, things that actually contribute to their quality of life. And so I think a pathway forward is really looking at those ways to redistribute wealth in a meaningful way, and also making sure that people have the capacity to be their best selves, and that, again, we are minimizing barriers and challenges in our capitalistic society that don't allow for certain groups of people to have real opportunities and economic wealth.
Absolutely. Natasha, how can our audience follow you, get in touch, and support you?
Okay, well, I am still a candidate for New York City Council, and I'm sure the website will be running after my race, but it's Natasha2021.com or NatashaWilliams.com. I am Natasha2021 on all social media platforms, so feel free to reach out to me and join our movement.
Definitely join the movement. Natasha, thank you for preaching a word. I just feel hopeful with leaders like you in the community. Again, this is exactly what we need. I appreciate this conversation. It's a conversation that we need to continue to have within a community. And I know with leadership like you, we will. And definitely you'll take this to Albany, maybe to the Capitol and wherever else that you go. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
I support the Killer Mikes and the late and great Nipsey Hussles of the world, who are empowering our people through the call for Black economic solidarity, entrepreneurship, and ownership. However, at the same time, that does not excuse the U.S. government for decades of policies that have excluded Black Americans from obtaining and building wealth. Black economic power is just part of the solution in the pathway to freedom. In addition to building our communities, we need to actively call for the government to give us the debt they owe. We built this country, and America owes us our coins. We need reparations now. And now for 10 things that just don't make any sense. Number 1. Justin Bieber's dreadlocks, which is the personification of Chet Hanks's declaration of a white boy summer. Justin. Number 2, the NRA, because apparently we can always use another mass shooting to brighten up our day. Number 3, the Kardashian-Jenner clan, for obvious reasons, except for those cute little kids and babies. I love you, Dream. Number 4, Future's inclination to trash his famous ex-girlfriends after they upgrade and move on to bigger and better. And number 5, Republicans. Number 6, Facebook, because obviously it's okay to use your social media platforms to incite a violent insurrection. You'll be suspended, but you will come back. Number 7, businesses opening up during the pandemic and requiring employees to come back into the office 5 days a week after over a year of working from home. Right, miss me with that. Number 8, Biden and his promise of student loan forgiveness. Yeah, he just okey-doked all of us. Number 9, Portia Williams and her new fiance and tattoo. Girl. And number 10, the French press trying to make Naomi Osaka talk to them by finding her and villainizing her to the tennis community, but jokes on them because sis is worth $50 million and said, peace out instead. We stand a queen.
Hey guys, how you doing? My name is Stanley Fritz. I'm this New York State Political and Campaigns Director at Citizen Action of New York. And when I'm not trying to save the world through politics and yelling at white people on Twitter, I write for Let's Not Be Trash, where we talk about patriarchy, sexism, and how to not be a trash man to the women in the world. It's not that hard, guys. Be a human being. But I'm here today because I want to talk about one of my most favorite human beings, a multimedia award-winning journalist, the second coming of Oprah, Beyonce, and Hennessy with apple juice, and the founder and creator of Be Heard Talk. That's right, Miss Selena Hill. Besides being all the amazing things that we love about her, Selena is kind, sweet, funny, has a huge personality, likes to drive 90 miles an hour and let go of the steering wheel, and troll me to no end. And because she trolls me to no end, I figured I would come up to her studio and ask her 10 questions that I know will make her very embarrassed, because what are friends for? So with that being said, hi Selena.
Hey Stanley, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready for this.
All right, let me go to my Rolodex real quick.
What are you gonna ask me?
Hold on a second, hold on. All right, all right. Okay, we're gonna wait for the birds and bees questions. We're gonna put that fifth.
Okay,
all right.
good.
We'll start it off easy. We gotta ease her in so she's not prepared.
Yes.
Selena, question one.
Oh God.
What is your favorite era of the Be Heard Talk show?
Oh, okay, that was so
Yeah.
good. Honestly, the one we did is in college. So like,
Really?
yeah, because so we actually started Be Heard. Back then it was called Let Your Voice Be Heard. I started it in 2006. Stanley came aboard 2007. He was our
Yeah.
second official engineer. And that era was probably the best because we won awards on campus. We were like the biggest thing on campus. Like I remember remember that woman who she had food poisoning and before going to the hospital, she called in to Let Your Voice Be Heard.
No, it was, so Kwanzaa, our friend, shout out to Kwanzaa, our friend Kwanzaa called the show and her friend had eaten some bad food in the cab and was throwing up. But yeah, and we thought we were like breaking top news. We were in the studio like, oh, CNN's gonna come and cover this. No, they weren't.
No, but it was good.
Yeah.
Like it was the voice of the campus. Shout out to Studio Westbury, my heart, our alum.
Yeah.
But I would have to be like 2006, 2007. We were fresh. We thought we were gonna take over the world. Like you could not tell Stanley he wasn't gonna be president,
Oh, God.
and you couldn't tell me I wasn't gonna be the biggest competitor to CNN. So
That is very true. But like when we did the show in college, Selena, the most popular show, do you remember what the most popular episode was?
which one?
Top 5.
Yep.
So
Yep.
can you tell folks what the top 5 show was?
It was just a show where we rated people, the top 5 on campus.
Say it with your chest, Selena. What was the show about?
We rated the top 5 like best people on campus.
Like human beings or physical? So tell us, Selena. Go ahead.
It was physical.
Oh,
it was physical, but
oh,
it was a
alright.
fun, engaging show. You know how many people voted? Everyone on campus nearly voted like for the top 5.
It was like 3,000 people on campus. It wasn't a lot of people.
But Stanley, were you like in the top 10 or top 5?
No, I was not. Damn. Selena Hill, ladies and gentlemen.
No, you could have been.
No, I definitely could not have been. But so like, Selena's not lying when she said the whole campus voted. Do you remember? So we used to have the studio inside of the student union. So the studio was on the second floor, and then not the multi-purpose room. There was a bottom floor area where like if you didn't want to go to the caf because the cafeteria food was mid, especially if
den.
Vernon wasn't cooking. The den,
The
there you
den,
go.
yep.
And you could buy food there, you can watch TV. And there were like 400 students in the den, and they turned the TV onto the radio station just so they can listen to see who the top 5 was gonna be. And I remember leading up to the show, I kept telling Selena, this is a dumb segment. Why are you doing this? And she's like, you don't know students. And I had left the show from engineering, but I had come to engineer that week because
Really?
KP was in the top 5, remember?
Yep. One of our co-hosts.
Yeah, Cantrell Patrick, shout out to KP. And I was engineering the show and like the phone was blown off. Like everybody was calling from campus.
Yep.
Oh,
And
man.
she won.
Yeah, she did win.
She was the top 5 for women, and then we also had top 5 for men.
But so we started off easy, Selena.
Yes.
How does that feel? You feeling comfortable?
I felt comfortable.
You feeling nostalgic?
Yep.
Let me get back to my big list of questions. This is a good one. So what are 3 big lessons you have learned over the last 15 years from doing this show that have like significantly impacted the way you show up?
Okay, that is a big question. I would say one of the things I learned. Okay, so the reason Stanley left the show was because I had a diva moment, and like, okay, we had like this whole big controversy with like season 2 or season 3, and it was like season 3, and there was like a fight at the literal station. And I think afterward, like the whole team was like, Selena, that's a bad idea. Like we shouldn't have did that. And I think my response was along the lines of like, no, it was a good idea. And I was like, y'all can leave.
Yo, Selena, you sugarcoating it. That sounds bad, but it's worse.
I think I said
the
that.
guest, it was a rapper named Punch. And he went to Old West Radio, but he was starting to get buzz as a rapper. And like, I think he's a nice guy, but he was really cocky at that point. And he straight up told, Selena couldn't be there, she had a family situation, and he was on the show, I was engineering, and he straight up told one of our co-hosts, yo, I got 5 guys outside, I got 3 guys in the studio, you won't make it out of here alive. Like straight up. And then Selena called in and was like, yo, Punch, it's so, in her defense, she wasn't listening to the show live. She's like, yo, Punch, I love you, it's lit, it's great, we love having you on here. So all the co-hosts is looking at the phone like, and me, and back then, like, I was a stick in the mud. I was like so like just like serious, and I was like, this is not appropriate. And I remember the show finished, and then like the 2 co-hosts started cursing out the rapper, and then his goon tried to beat them up. So like I'm breaking up a fight between the rapper and his friends and the co-host. So Selena comes back. We try to tell her what happened. She's like, I just think y'all ODing. Is that accurate?
Pretty much. So what that taught me was definitely humility, because when you and the team left,
The whole team left.
It was a lot. It was devastating. And I learned that it's not best to run things like a dictator, right? It was very early on. Nonetheless, I rebranded the show and we relaunched with new co-hosts and a new engineer. And I never again took that mentality. And thank God for folks like Stanley, who always holds me accountable. But I actually kind of flipped on the other side and have become a very collaborative type leader, because everyone's voice matters. Everyone's opinion matters. And I never pretend like I'm the smartest person in the room. I'm not.
She's not. Agreed.
I'm definitely not.
Definitely not.
So that's why it's so good for me to keep other smart people around me like Stanley, who have different perspectives, and we always come together and talk about things.
So how many times have you wanted to kick me off the show?
None, Stanley. None. It's not.
Who do you love more, Be Her Talk or your future child?
I knew he was gonna troll. Next.
Selena, who do you love more, Be Her Talk or your future child? You said you would answer my questions.
My future child. I'm sorry, but Be Her Talk is.
No. Too late. If, say like 10 years from now, you're married to a millionaire who's 6'5" with a full beard and I don't know, is a lawyer and has an MBA and also plays in the NBA, which is like the credentials you need for an appropriate partner, am I correct?
Yeah.
And you have a child, what will that child be named?
So I've always loved these 2 names for a girl, Jordan Rye.
Like, that's the full name, or like those are 2 different names you would use?
First name, middle name, and then last name.
Jordan Rye
Blank.
James, because you're marrying LeBron James.
Still, he has a whole family and a
When
wife.
does that ever stop someone from marrying someone else?
That would stop me.
Oh.
What are you trying to say?
Ain't nothing about you, something about LeBron.
Very
All right.
true.
Describe what your wedding would look like.
What? Yo, I hate these questions.
I know you do. That's why I'm asking them.
I've never thought about it.
Yes, you have.
I've
You
thought
told me.
about my baby shower.
Oh, well, describe your baby shower then.
Right. It's me levitating, coming in from the sky.
8 months pregnant.
Yes, coming in from the sky. And then once I land, surrounded by babies in white, like all around me. And they're trying to like grab at me. And my best friend like fanning me. And my
Jesus
husband
Christ.
feeding me grapes.
Are you going to feed the babies that you got? Like, where are all these babies coming from?
I have babies in my family, so I already told them like just dress them up in white and they could just be around.
But like,
me.
what if they're not babies no more by the time
Hopefully.
So if you can't rely on your family's babies, where are you getting the babies from?
You know what? We can do a casting.
For your baby shower?
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Did you see Cardi B's baby shower? Okay then.
Cardi B is worth like $100 million, Selena.
And I love that.
Which, you know we broke, right? What kind of baby shower you
Stanley,
going?
you're being futuristic and idealistic, so why should I limit myself?
You know what? Heard you. This is my last question.
Okay.
This is more of a reflective piece. So Selena used to kind of be like it's my way or the highway, and then everyone took the highway and she shifted, right?
Yes.
But like because of that, she's become far more collaborative. Has there ever been like a piece of advice or like a suggestion towards a show that somebody gave that we listened to that you regret in hindsight? And if so, why?
Is there?
I don't know, you tell me.
No, because the show evolved. Just as we evolved as people and personalities, like things that worked for us in 2012 and 2013, they didn't work in 2019.
Yeah.
Okay, so no, I don't regret anything. It was all lessons learned.
And now, Selena, look at the camera and give yourself something encouraging for the future Selena to watch and reflect on.
Okay, I'm gonna say, I love me. Does that sound bad though?
No, that's fine. You should love yourself, Selena.
I love me. I love you. I get like what I would tell my future self is I look forward to meeting you and I love myself.
Yeah.
That's horrible. That's
No, it's not,
horrible.
Selena. I'll give you some advice for future Selena.
Yeah, you do.
Future Selena, enjoy the moment. You'll never have this moment again. That's it.
That was so good. Today we talked about capitalism, all the things that don't make sense in America, and you learned a lot more about me than I cared to share, thanks to Stanley. But if you didn't learn or remember anything else from this show, remember that we can continue to create change, a better tomorrow, and a stronger humanity by speaking up and being heard. Take care.